This workshop contains every single possible crafting method that the Create mod offers, all while not needing any brass or even resources from the nether to create, but rather being set up in a way to be upgraded as you progress through stages of the game, with spaces being left in the machine to manually place the mechanical crafter, crushing wheels, blaze burner, haunted campfire, and deployers. Additionally, the machine includes its own source of rotational power, provided by a steam engine placed in the middle of the machine. Assuming that all the components are in operation, the machine uses 95% of the rotational power that the steam engine provides. And to make life easier, there is also a jump start system included in this machine to allow the user to activate and deactivate the steam engine with the use of a hand crank to get the mechanical pump spinning, and a clutch used to isolate that mechanical pump as not to overstress the hand crank by trying to spin the whole machine. I'll have additional information about this build that the video may have not covered in the same place where you can find the schematic download for this build, which will be linked in the video's description. With that said, whether you are or not building the machine by hand, there will be a setup guide at the end of this video if you wish to visually see how this machine is to be set up. With all that out of the way, let's dive into the build tutorial. First, we need to acquire the items listed on your screen in order to build this machine. So before we begin with this build tutorial, make sure to map yourself out an area of 7 blocks wide and 9 blocks long, which is going to be the dimensions of the machine that we are going to be creating. So to begin with this machine, we're going to place a line of 5 depots like this. Next to this depot, we're going to place a gearbox, followed by a shaft, and then a vertical gearbox. Then we're going to encase the shaft in the middle of these. Next, we're going to place a vertical gearbox here, and another vertical gearbox next to that one. Then we're going to take a shaft and place it like this, followed by a cogwheel on the end of that shaft. And then we're going to encase this cogwheel, but don't encase this shaft. Next, place 2 more cogwheels, one in front of the shaft and one in front of this gearbox. Next to this cogwheel, place a vertical gearbox here, but make sure it's facing this orientation, which can be done with the use of a wrench. In front of this small cogwheel, we're going to place a large cogwheel. Next to this large cogwheel, we're going to place a hand crank right here. Next, we're going to encase the large cogwheel and the 2 small ones like so. Now skip a block and place a vertical gearbox here, followed by a shaft facing that vertical gearbox and another shaft like this. And then we're going to encase both this shaft and this one. Place a temporary block here and a hopper facing that temporary block, and then destroy that block. Next to this hopper, place a vertical gearbox facing that direction, followed by a cogwheel on the end of this vertical gearbox. After you have placed that cogwheel, encase it. On this side of the vertical gearbox, place down a shaft and encase it as well. Now place down a campfire in front of this large cogwheel. To begin with this layer, take yourself 5 vertical gearboxes and place them in a line like this. On the end of this line of vertical gearboxes on the far side away from the campfire, place down a mechanical saw, followed by a basin, and then a millstone. In front of this millstone, place down a chute. Now let's move on to the other side of the machine, where we're going to place a depot here and a depot here. In between these 2 depots, we're going to place a basin. Behind this basin, we're going to place a chute above the hopper. Now place a shaft above this vertical gearbox and encase it. Above this campfire, place down a tank, followed by a fluid pipe next to that tank. In front of this fluid pipe, place down a mechanical pump facing towards the steam engine. Now get yourself 2 shafts and place one above this large cogwheel and another shaft right here, but make sure not to encase these 2. To begin with the third layer, we're first going to place a clutch above this shaft right here, and then a lever on the side of that clutch. On both sides of the clutch, we're going to place a barrel. Now take yourself 3 vertical gearboxes and place them in a line like this. Take yourself a regular gearbox and place it above this mechanical pump here. On both sides of this gearbox, place down a shaft. In front of this shaft, place down another tank on top of this one, followed by a shaft right here, and encase it. Next to the shaft we just encased, place a barrel. Now take yourself 2 cogwheels and place one above this vertical gearbox and another one next to that one. Then come to this vertical gearbox and place down a shaft and encase it. In front of this encased shaft, place down a campfire. And a block next to this campfire, place down a spout. Lastly, for this layer, take yourself a mechanical belt and come around to this side of the machine where we will take it and connect this shaft to this shaft. To begin with the 4th layer, we're going to take a mechanical mixer and place it above this basin right here. Next to this mixer, we're going to place a mechanical press right there. In front of this mechanical press, we're going to place a vertical gearbox right here, followed by a cogwheel next to that vertical gearbox. Above this cogwheel right here, we're going to place a large one. And then we're going to take a mechanical pump and place it above this spout. Now take yourself a casing and encase this large cogwheel, this small one, and this small one. Next to this small cogwheel, place a vertical gearbox here, followed by a fluid tank above this one. Place yourself a temporary block down right here and an andesite funnel facing that temporary block before destroying it. Next to this andesite funnel, place down a vertical gearbox here, another one on top of the barrel, and another one above this clutch. Next to this vertical gearbox we placed above the clutch, place down a chute. Now take yourself a shaft and place it right here in front of the chute, facing that direction, and connect this shaft and this shaft together with the use of a belt. Above this lever and clutch, place down a mechanical press. Then next to this mechanical press, place a shaft here and a shaft here. Then encase them. Lastly, for this layer, take yourself 4 encased fans and place them in a line like this. Though you will probably need to use a wrench to get the correct orientation. There we go. Then another one and another one. To start with the last layer, take yourself another fluid tank and place it on top of this fluid tank. Now get your steam engine and place it on the end of this fluid tank. Now come around to the back side of this fluid tank and place down a vertical gearbox like this. In front of this vertical gearbox, place down a cogwheel and then encase it. Now place a regular gearbox in front of this vertical one. In front of this gearbox, place down 5 shafts in a row like this. Then connect all of these shafts with a mechanical belt. Above all of the encased fans, place down a vertical gearbox. And above this mechanical pump, place down an item drain. In the middle of this belt, place down a shaft here and encase it. Next to the shaft that you placed down and encased, place down a shaft here and a shaft here, but make sure you don't encase these two. In front of this shaft, place down a vertical gearbox right here. And then on this side of the shaft, place down another vertical gearbox here. In front of this vertical gearbox, place down a shaft right here, which should auto-connect to the steam engine. Lastly, in front of this shaft, place down a cogwheel here and encase it. Now in theory, the machine is done. However, if you want the machine to look a little bit more presentable than this, I would recommend following the second part of the build tutorial, which we will start right now, which is going to be based on decorating the build. To skin this machine, I'm going to be using beginner-friendly materials like oak logs, oak stairs, and stone brick stairs and slabs. To begin with skinning the machine, I'm going to place a stone brick stair here, one like this, then like this, then like this, and that. Then I'm going to come around to the other side of the machine and do the exact same thing. Now I'm going to take my oak logs and make a pillar right here. And I'm also going to make another one in this corner. And then I'm going to connect these two like this. And then I'm going to come around to the other side of the machine and do the exact same thing. Now to begin with the roof. We're going to take a stone brick stair and place it here, followed by another one right here. And then we're going to basically essentially just continue doing a traditional Minecraft roof. I'm going to place a sideways one like this. Then I'm going to come around to the other side and do the exact same thing I just did for that side. And then on the top here, I'm going to place a stone brick slab. Now I'm going to break this stone brick here and place it back down like that. And then I'm going to continue the exact same roof pattern that we made so far. And then I'm just going to continue this trend to outline the entire roof. Now to fill in the roof that we have just created. So take yourself some oak stairs or whatever resource you're using and fill in the gap like so. And lastly, we will top off the roof with some oak slabs like so. But I'm going to leave a space in the middle. I'm going to drop down into this hole and fill in the gaps that we left behind with the use of oak planks. And then I'm going to place an oak plank on this wall right here. On this oak plank, I'm going to place a ladder here and an oak trap door right here. That way we can easily get in and out of the machine with ease, which is going to be essential for when you place down your cogwheels right there and right there, which is the reason I also didn't encase that cogwheel. Lastly, for this build, take yourself 2 trapdoors and place them right here in front of the encased fan, which is going to contain the lava and water. Now, let's go over the list of upgrades that you can apply to the machine as you progress through stages of the game. We will start with the Haunted Campfire, which is to be placed under the encased fan. There are 2 places to put a deployer. One is for a deployer to be placed here, enabling the assembling function. The second is to be placed in the middle of the machine, here on the other side of the hopper, which is to be used to provide fuel to the blaze burner, which, speaking of, is to be placed here underneath the basin to enable heated and superheating mixing. In this huge space on the side of the machine, you will want to place your mechanical crafter. Lastly, we have the crushing wheels, which are to be placed down from above into these 2 open holes on the top of the machine. Now then, let's begin with the setup guide. So far, you've either made the machine by hand or have pasted it in via a schematic. Either way, the setup for this build will be the exact same. To start, place water behind one of the glass trapdoors and lava behind the other. Next, go to the middle of the machine and waterlog the mechanical pump and the 2 blocks in front of that. Now, let's begin with jump-starting the machine. First, flip the lever on the clutch located under the compacting press. Next, spin the hand crank in the middle of the machine, which can be accessed underneath the spout. You will want to spin it until you hear steam. Then quickly flip the lever on the clutch to turn it off. If you have any issues with this build, make sure to join the Our Creation Discord. And if you're interested in gaining exclusive access to hundreds of additional bonus builds like this one, consider joining the Link Series project, both of which you can find more information about in the video's description.